welcome to my channel, Viscaria ASMR. This video is a little spur of the moment. It's about Title VII of the Civil Rights Act and the Supreme Court decision that came out this morning in the USA. And because I just wanted to talk about it, it's good news, which we haven't had a lot of recently. I wanted to make a video right now. You can see I didn't really set everything up, just sort of blocked out the backlight so you could see my face. And I wanted to talk about this ruling with you. In a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court decided that LGBTQ people cannot be discriminated against in the workplace, that it is prohibited to fire or not hire or fail to promote someone based on their sexuality or their gender. This is incredible. It is wonderful news. I didn't expect it. It wasn't even just 5-4, it was 6-3 to protect LGBTQ people. We've had a lot of not fantastic news this year and this Pride Month, this June. And so just reading this result today actually made me really emotional. I didn't know how emotional I was going to get. It feels really good. And now this ruling was based on Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and so I thought for this video we could talk a little bit about the Civil Rights Act, a little bit about the majority and minority opinions on this ruling. So let's talk about Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Title VII prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. So this means that your employer couldn't say, no, we don't want any women, or no, we don't want to hire any black people. Both of those were really common in the 60s, and this made it illegal. And so if you face that sort of discrimination, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission would file a lawsuit and help you. And of course, this is for more than just women and black people or African Americans. Discrimination is practically a pastime in this country, so I'm sure cases for everything have happened, national origin, religion. So this was a good thing in the Civil Rights Act. Title VII caused the creation of the EEOC, or the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and that is the government office that deals with discrimination. So if your boss or employer is discriminating against you, you would call up your local EEOC office, and hopefully they would help you with the lawsuit if that's what's needed, or give you the information that you need to deal with the problem. And so sexual orientation was obviously not included based on the original protected classes, so race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. And one of the arguments made is that sexuality actually falls under the umbrella of sex, because if you say, oh, you're a woman, so you should shave your legs and wear a skirt and have long hair, and if you don't do those things, I'll fire you. You are actually discriminating against that woman for not behaving as you believe a woman should behave. So it is sexual discrimination. And sexual orientation falls similarly in that way, where if you say you're a woman, so you must date or marry men and to act in any other way is unacceptable. That would be discrimination based on sex. So that was one of the legal arguments that was being made. There were 3 people who had cases, and 2 of them was for their sexuality. It was 2 gay men, and one was a trans woman who was fired from her job because she transitioned, and her boss just didn't like that. So unfortunately, 2 of the people, Amy Stevens and Donald Zarda, they have both passed away before they got to see this ruling, which is terribly sad. But today the Supreme Court ruled in their favor and said that their firings were illegal, prohibited by Title VII, and this means that anyone who is gay or trans or in some way gender non-conforming, anyone who gets fired for these kinds of things now has a case with the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So remember that if you ever have trouble. They deal with both firing, not getting hired, and being overlooked for promotions. So recently their stats say most of their cases are about being overlooked for promotions. So people are getting hired, but they're not able to reach higher parts. They aren't able to get promoted and reach those higher levels within their companies. But now I'm getting beyond what I want to talk about today, which is this. The Supreme Court today said it is illegal to discriminate against LGBTQ people in the workplace. I want to read a little bit from the majority opinion. So this comes from Justice Gorsuch. Here we go. Today, we must decide whether an employer can fire someone simply for being homosexual or transgender. The answer is clear. An employer who fires an individual for being homosexual or transgender fires that person for traits or actions it would not have questioned in members of a different sex. Sex plays a necessary and undisguisable role in the decision, exactly what Title VII forbids. So what that means is, if you would fire me for marrying a woman and you wouldn't fire a man for marrying a woman, then you discriminated against me because of my sex. He continues, those who adopted the Civil Rights Act might not have anticipated their work would lead to this particular result. Likely, they weren't thinking about many of the Act's consequences that have become apparent over the years, including its prohibition against discrimination on the basis of motherhood or its ban on the sexual harassment of male employees. But the limits of the drafter's imagination supply no reason to ignore the law's demands. Gorsuch provided some more examples. So he said, for example, if a male employee and a female employee are both attracted to men, but only the male employee is fired because of that attraction, the employer intentionally singles out the male employee, in part because of the employee's sex. If a transgender employee and a female employee both identify as female, and only the transgender employee is fired, the employer intentionally penalizes a person identified as male at birth for traits or actions that it tolerates in an employee identified as female at birth, Gorsuch said. And it isn't a defense for the employer to say it fires all male and female employees who are homosexual or transgender. So just as an employer who fires both Hannah and Bob for failing to fulfill traditional sex stereotypes double rather than eliminates the Title VII liability, an employer who fires both Hannah and Bob for being gay or transgender does the same, Gorsuch wrote. There is also a dissenting opinion, as there always is. This one is written by Justice Samuel Alito Jr. and Clarence Thomas, and they wrote, "There is only one word for what the court has done today: legislation. The document that the court releases is in the form of a judicial opinion interpreting a statute, but that is deceptive." So what I think they mean here is that by interpreting the word sex the way that the majority did, it is more akin to making law than interpreting law. So their argument would be that the Supreme Court has overstepped the boundaries of what it is supposed to do. That's their argument. Kavanaugh also wrote his own dissent, but I don't think anyone cares what that guy has to say, so we're not going to read it. But the key takeaway today is you can't get fired. Well, it is illegal to be fired for your sexuality or gender presentation, and that is a good thing. That is a step forward for the USA, and that is a piece of good news in a Pride Month that has been very difficult and very fraught. And that makes me hopeful, which I have not felt very often recently from my country. So I hope this piece of good news brightens your day, and that you learned a little bit more about the laws in this country. And I just hope you have a wonderful day being you, and I don't know, just go out there, well, stay at home maybe if you're in the US, stay home, but be yourself and be proud